What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Black and White Bodybuilding, where nothing is black and white except for your hosts. My name is Logan Schultz. And that is Paul
Oh
Cunningham.
man, that is a good intro. Good fucking intro.
Hey, I thought so too, man. I thought so too. So, Paul, let's start. How has your last 7 days been, man?
It's been great. It's been a lot of walking, 25,000 steps a day again. Um, physically, I'm looking much leaner, much better. Sleep has been not so good, but it was good yesterday. I got like a good solid 8 hours. My wife and son are currently not here for the next few days. She's over at her parents for the next few days. So I'm just being a bodybuilder for the next few days, which is just like get up, go train, go do cardio, whatever we got to do, eat, sleep, pose, practice. It's been a good first day, I'd
That's
say.
nice.
And yours?
Yeah. So, last 7 days, we started to push pretty hard.
Mm.
So, I am starting to feel pretty run down. But we're getting those last, I'm guessing 6 to 8 more pounds of,
Okay.
of fat off. We're getting that last bit of fat off my backside. Glutes are starting to striate just a touch from the in the back double, right?
Mm.
I obviously have glute striations from the side. Um, so yeah, pushing there. I think that's pretty much consuming my life right now.
Yeah, dude.
I did my first in gym recording session with a videographer. That was pretty cool. Um, so just trying to find some different ways to get out content other than me walking and talking in front of you know, my phone, basically. So yeah, that's kind of how my 7 days have been.
Seems pretty
Um,
productive.
both 5 weeks out now. Um,
Just about.
I want to do something a little bit different today. I want to get your opinion on some classic poses for me. You down for that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm
Totally
going to
open.
share my screen. Hopefully this works. Yeah. So, okay. So we can do it here.
Perfect.
I'm going to share my screen again. Let's hope this works.
I already know which one looks really good.
Okay. So this first one here is obviously the one that I've been doing in previous years, right?
Mm-hmm.
I did this one last year, which
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like because it's a little bit different than what people normally do. I mean, it's still the same variation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my coach Andrew likes this pose on me,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just played around with some of these others.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are your thoughts?
The last one.
You like this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
So it could be it'll definitely can be better, but it shows how small your waist looks
Okay.
and your chest is prop up exactly how it needs to be. So it creates that little bit of like that X factor kind of frame.
Yeah.
The only thing that might be a little bit off is maybe the feet placement and
Yep.
just how your foot's kind of placed. I think that looks really good, but I wonder what it would be like if your legs were a little bit like shoulder width apart, like pointing straight, because that would give you a much more bigger legs. Because right now the legs, the way that they look, yeah, they look good, but they're not like symmetrical according to each other. But if you were to switch to a much more like narrower stance, sort of like, oh my legs.
Hold on, I can't see you.
Oh, can you see me now?
Yeah, I can see you now.
So sort of like this, instead of having it here, you
Yeah.
have it like this. So this creates
So a
that
little bit
X
more
frame
straight
where you're
on.
yeah, where your legs are like really, really big and massive. You can still see
Uh-huh.
like both of them full. And then when you get to the middle, there's that X-ray factor with the smaller waist.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. I got you. I'll give it a try.
Yeah,
Um,
but I like that one. You could
Yeah.
always just transition both, anyways.
Yeah, for sure. The reason that I had liked the other one, so like this leg being forward,
Mm,
it doesn't quite show as much detail as my right leg. So I'd
mm,
always traditionally kept this right leg forward, right?
mm,
However, so I mean, it's basically this pose right here, just the opposite, and then level shoulders, right? But this
mm,
pec right here doesn't look very good with this lat flared.
mm,
Um, so okay, I'll take that suggestion and I'll give that a try. Um,
mm.
I'll give that a try later this evening. I'll do some posing
Yeah, definitely
and
let me know how it goes
see
because
what we
it's
think.
about just like showing the shape, and when everything is a lot more symmetrical, it just catches people's eyes a lot more.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I like the off balance because I feel like it shows some classic lines in the flow. But
Mm.
I think that even with my legs being the way that you're talking about, I think we can still show that. I like that idea. I'm gonna give it a try, and we'll see what happens. We'll see how
Yeah,
it
so
goes.
from what I've learned, the people who usually have to like put the legs like one side all the way to the left or the right are usually the ones who have like already bigger, blockier waist. So they have to kind of like set their foot in that position to kind of like adjust it so it makes their
Sure.
waist look a little smaller. But if you already have like a really, really, really small waist, just go ahead on.
Yeah. Yeah. I can understand that.
But they all look good. They all look really good.
I appreciate it. Really trying to. I don't know, man. I just we're thinking that just trying to get the most out of it, right? I mean, that's really it. So playing around with that pose, and then I'm starting to pose with KJ Center Stage this Saturday, and then I think I'm posing with him 5 times before the show.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, I had a good buddy of mine. Funny enough, I've never met him in person. I met him through a friend of ours, and we've only ever talked through Instagram. But we've became, you know, relatively good friends. And he messages me one day, and he ended up having to pull out of a show or whatever. And he messaged me, and he's like, "Hey, man, I've got these sessions with KJ Center Stage. Like, I can't get a refund, but I can gift them to somebody. Do you want them?" I was like, "Sure." It was like $300 worth of posing sessions. So, yeah, that was really nice. So he passed them
Yeah.
along. So I'm going to utilize that and see what happens.
Yeah, like what I'm starting to see now, it's like I would say like what I'm observing is around like 4 to 5 week mark, right? There's like not really there's no need to like push hard to like, retain your muscle tissue or
Mhm.
whatever. I think like people can typically back off on like a lot of the sets and just focus on conditioning and overall endurance for posing. Because
Mm.
at that point, like you're not focusing on the muscle growth because you should be already maintaining most of your muscle growth. And
Yeah.
if you just reduce the volume and just train really hard for like maybe like 3 to 4 days, you're gonna still hold your muscle tissue.
Mm.
So around like that 4 or 5 weeks, it's kind of like, all right, cool. Let me just do my cardio as I need to because I'm maybe behind, maybe need a little bit more conditioning, and let me practice my posing. So it's like less weightlifting, but more of conditioning and
Well,
endurance.
I mean, anybody
Yeah,
that's gone through rounds of posing knows that that is like it's
yeah,
just as exhausting as training or cardio.
yeah.
Like,
But like the really cool thing is, the more you do it, it just gets easier to hold it. And I think the secret to being really, really good at posing and improving your endurance is fucking cardio. So,
yeah, I'm running through. Well, I've been a little bit behind on this lately, but I was doing 2 sessions in the morning and 2 rounds in the morning, 2 rounds at night, holding 10 seconds each pose.
mhm.
Um, I've kind of slacked on that a little bit as of late, just because morning cardio got bumped up, and so it's a little bit harder for me to. I just have to get up a little bit earlier, but like this morning, I woke up at like 4:30 or 4:20, which is 30 minutes before I planned to get up.
Mm.
Um, so obviously, I can do my posing then, but that's just a byproduct of prep, right?
Yeah, yeah. The last 4 to 6 weeks are kind of just like I got to focus on me kind of thing.
Yeah. It's really unfortunate, but yeah, I mean, do you have any like tips or tricks that you do in those last weeks to help?
Um, so I usually run. I think the thing that saves me the most is running like a flexible dieting
Hmm.
approach. So like I'm still eating the same food, just less of it. Um, I do make sure to communicate with my wife when I'm at that point where it's like, hey babe, it's gonna be 4 to 6 weeks out. I just want to let
Yeah,
you know I might be, this, and really focused. So like I try to let her know, but I try to make sure the first 10 to 12 weeks or so, it's mainly just focused on spending time with family, doing everything that I can to make sure there's a little bit of like bonding and all that stuff going through with it. Because I think 10 to 12 weeks of just prep, and you're prepping for like 16 or 20 weeks, you should still be right on track to where it doesn't consume your life entirely, you know? So when you finally get to that 4 weeks, that's when it's like you're kind of already where you need to be. You're in a really good spot. Now it's just a matter of just like digging just 2 more weeks so you're ready at that 2 week mark, and then just take it out. So like usually like the 4 weeks is where it gets a little bit like, all right, I
that's
have to
where it
get
gets
up and do
painful.
cardio. Yeah, exactly. Got to get up, do cardio. Got to do this. Got to do
Hmm.
2 hours of cardio or whatever. Got to walk 25,000 steps or whatever. Got to make sure you're unscheduled.
Yeah,
Um, but like if you are with a significant other, you just communicate that, and you're like, hey, the entirety of the prep, I've been awesome. I've been doing everything that I can. I've been kind of having a good time balancing things out.
yep,
But I just want you to know that like the last 4 to 6 weeks, I really want to focus on myself in this show, and I just hope that you understand.
yeah,
And,
yeah. It so for me, right? Because I work a full time job. Um, I have in person clients. I have online clients. And then now I'm doing two podcasts and the prep. So what I do is at 6 weeks out, I no longer take on any in-person clients. And the
mm,
reason that I do that is because I want to maintain a schedule and I
mm,
don't want any fluctuations in that schedule. So
okay.
everything needs to be the exact same. Not every day per se, but like every Monday needs to be the exact same. Every
Mm,
Tuesday needs to be the exact same, right?
yeah.
And that really kind of makes it easy for me to know when I have downtime, to know when I have the ability to spend more time with my wife, or we can go to a movie, or whatever the case is, right? Or when I need to pose, whatever that is. I also utilize a little bit of like modafinil to help keep me going at work. On the very occasion, I might use like some Vyvanse, just because if I have like a meeting for work or something, like,
Mm,
and I'm dead inside and I'm grumpy and my boss has been getting on my nerves all week, like I might be a little bit snippy. So
mm,
that kind of takes the edge off and just helps me function a little bit more normally in those last couple of weeks. That's not an everyday thing. It's
yeah.
just when it's an absolute necessity, right?
Mm,
So
yeah.
those are some things that I do.
Yeah, I mean, that seems pretty leveled out. I have been wondering about like the modafinil kind of thing. I've
Mhm.
always wanted to try it, but I'm like, I don't know why I would try it, but I want to try it, but I just never get a chance to kind of like purchase it, I guess. I don't
So
know.
yeah, modafinil is interesting. I didn't. I mean, it's kind of basically like an anti-narcolepsy drug.
Yeah.
Um, like a lot of pilots use it when they have long flights and stuff like that. When I started taking it, for some reason, I go through these bouts of time periods where I'm like really exhausted all the time,
Mhm.
and I'll sleep 8 to 10 hours, and then on top of that, take a nap or two a day. Like I'm just really overly exhausted, and so the
Mhm.
modafinil seems to help with that a little bit. When
Mhm.
I first started taking it, though, it was like you could tell that I took it the first couple of hours.
Mhm.
However, my heart rate wasn't like elevated, maybe 1 to 2 beats, but that was it. So it wasn't like a really big spike in heart rate or anything like that, like a stimulant was. But you could definitely tell that I was like mentally sharper, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of been my experience with it. I can definitely tell when I don't take it. Like even in the off season, I can tell when I don't take it.
Mhm.
I say off season. Earlier in prep, when I wouldn't take it, I could tell like I just had an overall sense of like not feeling very good at all. Like the exhaustion was basically there. So
Mhm.
um, I know for you, you don't really sleep a whole lot though. So I don't know if it's necessarily. If I were you, I would start off with like a really low dose, like 50 milligrams, 100 milligrams.
So this is kind of interesting now that we talk about sleep. Um, I'm noticing that if I sleep like 5 to 6 hours, I can operate pretty good,
Mhm.
like really good, and never feel like tired. So like I typically would wake up around like maybe 3 or 4, 4 to 5 o'clock, somewhere around there, and I am just wired, like just awake and wired. So like I just get everything I can get done off the bat before like my son and wife wakes up. So like if I need to do my fasted cardio, first I'll do my hour walks and then I'll do my fasted cardio after the walking for an hour with a total of like an hour and 30 minutes is what I do 30 minutes on the elliptical and then I go home and then I get everything ready. Um, but yeah, like if I don't do my cardio, I feel shitty. And I think that ruins like most of my day. It's kind of gotten to the point where like cardio makes my day.
Interesting.
Where like I don't know what it is. So like I just kind of gotten like a weird addiction of just doing cardio every day because it makes me feel really good. And typically like I don't use any like stimulant related stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Except for coffee. So I never like drank coffee or as much coffee when I was like younger.
Mm-hmm.
But like now that I'm older and I'm like kind of drinking it a little bit more frequently, that shit hits me for the entire day. Like a little,
Oh,
like not even like a not even like an entire cup of coffee, like 6 ounces.
yeah.
That gets me good for the entire day. So that's kind of like how I kind of stay function in a way with little sleep. So I don't know. Yeah, like I operate just fine. Like even right now at like 5 weeks out, I don't feel horrible or anything, and I wake up, do all that plus my cardio. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's a weird kind of prep where like I have more food. I'm eating 25 to 2,700 calories. I'm getting 25,000 steps with
Mm-hmm.
2 sessions of ellipticals. So that's like an hour of elliptical. I'm not losing weight, but I'm like literally looking leaner and bigger every single day.
Well,
So
I mean,
I don't
that's
know what the fuck's going on, but it's kind of cool.
yeah, that's a nice place to be. I mean, I'm at just under 1,800 calories right now, like under 100 grams of carbs, 75 minutes of cardio, so 45 fasted, 30
Yeah.
post workout or later in the day, right? And then I'm at 15,000 steps. So um, I feel it. I'm I'm at the point where body is starting to hurt all the time, um, and I'm there's no a cup of coffee is I could take a nap after a cup of coffee. Like I've never, yeah, that's nothing.
Yeah, that's what everyone says. I'm just like, well, I didn't drink a lot of coffee when I was a child, so thank
I
God.
mean, I didn't either. I don't really like the taste of coffee. The only reason that I drink coffee is for caffeine.
Mm,
Um, so it's I, but I think I started with things that were like I think my first introduction to like really drinking caffeine, other than like, maybe soda or something like that, would have been pre-workouts. Would have been like
mhm,
Jacked
mhm,
3D. So it was like
mhm.
caffeine and DMAA, right? Yeah.
I have a story for you.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Oh my God. So the original Jack was around like 2010, somewhere around there.
Fuck. Yes, it was
Uh,
right around the time I was starting to lift.
that's literally the exact same time I started to lift, and I abused the hell out of that. So like, I don't know if this is bad or not. I don't think it's bad, but it's whatever. So I got the original Jacked, and I was taking 4 to 5 scoops of that inside, and I'm pouring it into a cup of coffee, like a Wawa cup of coffee, about 16 to 20 something ounce, and I'm taking 1 to 2 caffeine pills on top of that.
Homie.
So yeah, and then like after like that phase was over, which was like maybe for quite a long period amount of time, I kind of haven't had pre workout since 2013. So it's just like,
Yeah. Yeah, because
yeah,
I mean the formula for Jack 3D was banned because it was killing people, making people have heart attacks.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
a lot. Yeah, I never did all that. As a
yeah,
matter of fact, I remember the first time I took a red line, I drank the whole bottle instead of just half of one.
yeah.
And I had to leave the gym because my heart was racing so much and I was so like clammy and like nauseous that I had to go home. Like I couldn't function. I thought I was dying. It was a terrible experience. The only other time I've had that experience was in 2018 or 19. I found this pre-workout and I don't even remember the name of it now, but it had a little scooper on one end and a big scooper on the other. And I took the big side and I trained, but I was still like there was something going on. And when I came home, I was like, I need to come down. Like, so I got in a hot bath, and I kid you not, Paul, I could feel the molecules of water touching my body laying in this bath. It was the weirdest experience I've ever had in my life. I don't know what was in this pre workout, but it me up big time.
Yeah, yeah. There were like, you know how everyone always says like, "Oh yeah, they're like natural for life," or some weird stuff like that. And then you think back in like freaking like 2008, 2010, almost a lot of the supplements were laced with drugs. So like, I don't believe anyone is natural to be honest, just
A
because of that.
100%. Like people don't realize like how I even when I talk about supplements today,
It's
it's like
like nothing.
you have to understand the supplement industry today is so much cleaner than what it was in the early 2000s and the
Yeah.
2010s. Like that shit, you there was a nitrogen spiking to affect the protein content, right?
Mhm.
And you were getting there was banned substances in them. Like there was no regulation. Like
Yeah,
I
dude.
mean, for Christ's sakes, Superdrol
Oh my
was
god.
sold over the counter.
Yeah.
And Superdrol is one of the harshest steroids you can take.
Yeah, that was like the pro hormone days when it had
Yeah.
like Ultradrol and Superdrol and
Yeah.
Amstan. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, dude. Like
Oh, Jesus Christ.
that stuff was was something serious.
Yeah. Like that's why like when somebody tells me like, yeah, they're natural for life, like and they're like at our age or maybe like a
Mhm.
year or two older, I'm just like, yeah, yeah, sure
That
you
you
are.
know of.
Yeah, that you know of. Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Meaning, basically, whenever I hear somebody say they're natural for life, what I hear is I've never stuck a needle in me.
I guess, yeah, I guess that's what most people will say. But then, like, yeah, what about an oral from like a pre-workout? You know,
Yeah, right.
from like your Jack 3D they used to take all the way back then when you were a teenager. Yeah, that might
Yeah,
have had a bunch of stuff in there.
yeah, 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 for
But yeah,
sure,
you're natural, bro.
for
You're
sure.
natural.
Yeah, those supplements back then were something else. I mean, back then you couldn't trust. There was like it was hard to trust any company, especially when it came to protein powders. I remember protein was also disgusting back then, man. Like
Yeah,
chalk. Oh,
they did had some like good ones, and it was like the Dimetize. Their protein was always like super delicious. I don't know why.
Synthesix, BSN
Yeah.
Synthesix. Yeah.
Good freaking times. Good freaking times,
Yeah,
man.
and I mean now like when people ask me, I'm like, look, like honestly, like you can find good products at HEB. Like there are really
Mm.
good brands sold at HEB.
Yeah. It's a lot more like common to have like good brands of protein nowadays because
Mhm.
just the overall fitness industry has blown up over the
Yep.
course of the last since this I guess social media.
Yeah. Which is
That
great because it's forced companies to provide a better product.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a higher level of competition these days, especially with like certain companies. So like if you screw up and you your protein is spiked, you're not gonna last long, bro. It's like get good.
For sure. 100%. 100%.
But
Um,
yeah.
so do you choreograph your routines? That's a no.
Yeah, that's a no.
So do you just
There's
pick some music and go out and post to it, or do you choose house music? What do you do?
I just pick a music and I just practice the poses in my head of how it's going to look or what I want to do based on the music that I'm listening to,
Okay.
and I just do that when it's time to pose. I don't think I've really spent much time practicing my posing routine because in my head, this is not going to make me win.
It's not.
So like I focus more on the mandatories, the comparisons, and then the posing. I just pick a music and then just do the poses that I look really good in,
Yeah.
and have a little flair. It's like I'm not trying to fucking dance here. Fuck this shit. It's just like I just want to pose my muscles. Like I'm fucking trying to like.
That's kind of how I've always looked at it as like I care to practice what I'm being judged on. This routine
Yeah.
is completely for entertainment purposes. That is great. However, I do generally have something choreographed or semi-chore. Like it's probably choreographed, but I probably haven't practiced it a ton. So like when you see
Mm,
me hitting some of these poses, like I really probably haven't done them a ton.
yeah.
Um, so like I have a routine that I've been trying to do for nationals for years, and I'll start practicing it probably this weekend, just to kind of get it down so that I don't mess it up, right? Because it's kind of like it's one that I've been wanting to do, I guess.
Mhm.
So I am putting a little bit more time into it than what I would in previous years.
Mhm.
But if I were doing like a local or regional show, like I wouldn't.
Yeah. I think I would say if you're doing like a pro show, like it makes sense to really work in a routine because I think it might matter at
Mhm.
pro shows. There's been quite a few times where like the placing for me was moved up based on the routine of whether it was really, really good or something. But I don't know. I don't know. I might have just fixed my posing in the mandatory, but I think they do look at the routine as
Yeah.
well, and they may say they don't like score it, but I'm sure they like look at if it was pleasing or really really amazing. It would be like, oh wow, cool, that
Well,
was a great routine.
a routine is a place to showcase poses that you don't normally get to showcase, right? Like you have your little 30 to 45 second like individual,
Mm,
but in that you don't really get to hit like, I mean, you can, but it's kind of weird in my opinion if you're doing like kneeling and lunging shots.
yeah.
And I think that some of the kneeling and lunging shots look really cool. Like I think that they show really cool leg definition that you don't really see in any of the other poses.
Mm,
And you can kind of create some really cool lines and stuff like that, right? And I think that it's a place where, especially a classic physique, can really like shine. Like a true classic physique can really like shine through. Is in those more unique poses. And so I could
mm,
see that subconsciously affecting like a finals score, right?
yeah.
Where you're being judged at prejudging and finals.
Mm,
Um, Now I know at any really NPC show, you're not going to be judged at finals at all. They've already made their decisions. Um, so, but I've got family coming out to watch. So if I do place top five as I plan to, I would like to provide at least something cool for them. So,
yeah. Yeah, I think that'd be pretty great. You know, it's like a nice solid routine to look back on. Oh yeah, I made it, and then it's like I finally got to do my routine.
yeah,
That's always
yeah.
nice.
Because I choreographed this routine for my first national show, and I really liked it because I'm not like a super artistic person.
Me too. That's why I don't do them.
Yeah, it takes me like, man, like I can be artistic, but it takes me like
So much resources and
hours and
energy.
hours to do, right?
Yeah.
And eventually I do get into a flow and I can be artistic. But it
Mhm.
takes so much time getting into that like flow
Mm.
that it's like it's exhausting. So I just don't like to do it.
Yeah, like for me, when it comes to like choreographing like a posing routine, I don't make time for it. I should. I obviously should, 100%. But like, I feel like my posing in general sucks when it comes to like comparison and like mandatories and the important ones. I'd rather just spend all my time and resources
Mm,
fixing the posings where
it
it's
matters.
important. Yeah, and I get like scored on. With the routine, it's just have a song and then just pose
Yeah.
however you want, but just make it look stylish. But I should probably definitely maybe try to work on it. We're almost like 5 weeks out, so
Yeah.
probably a good time.
Look at there. I just provided everybody that's going to be at that show some value because Paul Canu is now going to have a little bit of a routine, and you're
He's
all
gonna practice his routine for once.
yeah. You can all thank Logan Schultz. You're welcome.
Pretty much.
Oh man,
But are you like super excited for this show that you're about to do?
I am.
Hmm.
Um, for a couple of reasons. It's for one, it's been a very different prep for me. Um, Normally, when I get to like 4 or 5 weeks out, I'm like nowhere near ready. And then it's like a grind and like we're pushing super hard um to get in shape, right?
Hmm.
And this year like I'm far ahead of what I've ever been.
That's good.
And so we're pushing hard right now, don't get me wrong, but normally at this level of like body fat, like I was pushing 2 hours of cardio a day and 1,500 calories, right? And so like, and even then, like I'm on a third of the trend that I've run in the past. So like I'm really happy with how my look is coming together. I
Hmm.
obviously know that I still have holes and that I still need body parts to bring up. Um, but I think that once the backside does come in we have the opportunity to bring a much fresher and fuller look, and I think it's going to be really cool. So
Yeah.
I think I'm mostly excited for that, to be honest.
Mm. Yeah, that should be pretty fun to see. Especially it's like probably gonna be what, like your best package to date in
It,
a way.
for sure, absolutely. I mean, so last year, like we had to diet really hard between my qualifier and nationals, which was
Mhm.
4 weeks, and I ended up pulling down to like the lowest was like 2 or 3 days out at 193. And so I
Mhm.
stepped on stage, or the day before, and then that morning of the show was like 196, right?
Mhm.
This morning I was 204. I would estimate that we're somewhere between 4 and 8 pounds away from that like really grainy conditioning.
Okay.
Um, and the way that my body is moving, I don't think that I think that we'll be there, bef- you know, with 2 weeks to spare is what I think.
Mhm.
So, I mean, even then, if let's just say 8 pounds, right, that puts me at 196. That's still heavier, and then we have more time to fill up and just bring a fresher look. So I think I'm gonna end up on stage over 200, which would be absolutely phenomenal. Um, so we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean over 200. How tall are you?
5'10",
Okay, so it's what's your cap?
209.
Okay, so that's is that going to be like the biggest you've ever been, or in terms of okay, then that's pretty much a win right there.
100%.
So it's kind of just like getting the pose in where it needs to be, and then things are pretty much solid.
Yeah.
Because I'm noticing like you can look lean, peeled, shredded, big, massive, but if the posing is not there, that just destroys everything.
Presentation matters, man. Yeah, if you're up on stage and you can't showcase that conditioning, right? Like you can't flex your hamstrings and your glutes and you can't flex your quads, you can't
Mhm.
stay flexed.
Yep.
What's the point, you know? Like I
Yeah.
have a bunch of vacuum poses, but if I can't hold the vacuums during all the poses, I'm not showcasing my best, right?
Yeah. So that's actually what I have to do. So I have like a when I was born, I guess they didn't cut the umbilical cord properly.
Hmm.
So there was a little bit like scar left over. So like the hernia that I have is from when I was born. It wasn't from like training or anything like that. It hasn't really gotten any bigger. It's just I just grew. But just to not show that when I'm on the stage, I'm gonna be doing a lot of vacuum.
Yeah.
Like holy shit, like I'm just gonna stand there just vacuum vacuum vacuum, everything's vacuum.
Well, I have a theory. When I was younger, I did a lot of like crunching oblique stuff. And I
Yeah.
did notice that my obliques kind of grew a little bit over my
Mhm.
my pelvic bone, right?
Yeah.
So I do have a little bit that comes out of that pelvic bone, but when I do a vacuum, it just sucks my waist in, and so my waist, like from my hips to my rib cage, it
Mm.
it tapers. It has a nice V, right? But when I'm not in a vacuum, it doesn't. It's just straight up and down.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of detail throughout my obliques,
Mm.
but it doesn't show a nice taper through the front. So I find that taper with the vacuum is what really allows me to look better, and that's why I do the vacuum.
Yeah. Basically about the same reason for me, just to hide that weakness.
Yeah,
But also because I have such a small, tiny waist, who the
you
fuck's
do.
gonna win against my waist if it's like a full-on vacuum 24/7?
You do have a very very tiny waist.
So like I'm really like just hammering the vacuum every single day. So like literally like when they say like quarter turn to the right, it's vacuum. Quarter turn to the left, it's vacuum. Quarter to the front, it's vacuum. So yeah, should be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I woke up like yesterday morning or the morning before, and I went to start posing, and I was like, "Oh dear God, this hurts so bad." Like
Yeah,
I can't. It's like you can't feel anything. Like I was like, I don't know about today.
so I'm gonna go
Can I
back to
can I go back to bed?
bed.
Oh man.
That was exactly what happened today. Where like I actually slept pretty good for the
Yeah.
first time in forever. I got like a good. Let me check what my watch says. Uh, 9 hours. Yeah, like 9 hours and 5 minutes. I was like, okay, cool, and then like I was like, all right, cool, this is nice, and I went straight back to
I'm
bed.
jealous.
But like I only get that like once in a blue moon. If I
Yeah.
could get 9 hours consistently, I would be jacked.
Yeah. I think that I sleep a lot, but I also wake up a lot in the middle of the night. So
Mm,
like it's normal for me. Like a good night's sleep is when I wake up once or twice.
yeah.
That's like a really good night's sleep for me. Normally, especially like in the off season when I'm heavy, waking up 10 times can be normal. Yeah. Whether it be to use the restroom or because my arm has fallen asleep or
Mm.
because I woke up because I was snoring, like a variety of reasons. So I think I think moving forward, I'm gonna try to not go from 248 to 200 pounds.
Oh, that's how much you had to cut down
Oh yeah, yeah.
for
But
this year?
yep, 248.
Holy shit.
248 was my heaviest. I will say though that a lot of that was um, food within my digestive system, and then excessive water. So I dropped that relatively quick. Probably 10 to 12 pounds,
Mm.
um, relatively quick. So it's like it wasn't all fat, right? But yeah, I don't. I think I need to take it slower in the off season a little bit and not push it so hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like the first few weeks post prep is what matters.
Hmm.
Where some people may say like, you have to like reverse diet out of the prep. I don't think you have to do any reverse. I think you just have to go back to maintenance and stay at that maintenance for quite a bit as the body fat sort of like catches up. Because if let's say you finished your prep at like so 1,500 calories, right? Just go to like 2,000 or 2,200 calories and just hold it there and just let your body's weight just gradually just keep on going up while you're eating the same calories. And I think if you do that, you should be in a really good position without having to start with like little to no calories and then slowly just work your way back up.
Hmm.
But I also think the reason why people's weight spikes up so much post show is because there's a lot of sodium that's being introduced post
Hmm.
show. There's a lot of carbohydrates being introduced post show. There's not a lot of water.
Yeah, most people
Because
way under consume water post show.
especially post show, and then when that happens, all that like retention just sort of starts coming in, and then
Hmm.
that's what makes people just jump up and like weight like
Yeah,
crazy
because
because they're eating a lot, no
they're not
sodium.
drinking enough water to flush the sodium, and then
Yep.
on top of that, the carbs, the additional right, the carbohydrate intake is also causing you to hold more water. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. You're absolutely right.
So like if
Um,
people just drank more water and eat a little bit of
yeah,
maintenance, they'll be good.
yeah,
I think. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, last year was the only year I've had where I really, really mentally had a hard time. Um, And I think that in part I did it. I actually let me. I did it to myself 100%. So like
Mm.
I knew we were going to Vegas, and this is when Keith Lee. Do you know who Keith Lee is?
I've heard of the name.
Okay, so he's a food. He's a TikTok famous food critic. out in Vegas, and he made a lot of mom and pop shops go from failing to successful businesses. Okay, because they had good food and they had great service, and he just kind of advertised that. And so there were all of these places that I wanted to try in Vegas. And so I was watching all of this food stuff before the show, right? When I'm really, really hungry. My everything was food related, right? So like everything I thought about was food. So that was mistake number one. And then number two was like, okay, well, I didn't place top five, so and I have another 24 hours before I have to come back for finals.
Okay.
I started eating, right? I
Mm.
was like, I don't care. I walk up on stage and I hit one pose, like it's irrelevant. And I started eating, and then I continued eating um, while we were there. And so like by the time we left, I was up like 20 pounds. Yeah, and when I came back, I like for some reason had a really really hard time. I could stay on plan for a day or two, and then it would because now because I'm 20 pounds up, now we have to keep cardio high. Like I have to drink 2 gallons of water. Like my calories need to stay a little bit lower because we have to pull all of that water off to even normalize blood pressure and everything like that, right? Like and so it just became this terrible cycle post show for me where I was mentally like sitting in my car like eating a box of donuts like wondering what the hell I was doing because I'd done 4 shows before this and never had this issue.
Mm.
Never once had I ever like don't get me wrong, like I was hungry post show and sure I had stuff that was off plan, but I wasn't like so food obsessed. And so mentally, I had a really hard time last year. It was a very weird experience for me, not being able to mentally control myself.
Mm.
So,
How hard was the diet? Was the prep?
it was hard. It was harder than I'd ever dieted before. Like,
Mm.
don't get me
Okay.
wrong, it absolutely was, and it was by far the leanest I'd ever been.
That's probably why.
So that definitely played a factor, 100%.
Mm.
But I don't think that me surrounding my life with food made it any
Mm.
better. Like I was walking, so I walk around grocery stores for in my day job, and like I was like walking around the stores, like just looking at food. So like now I just like, but and like this year I don't doom scroll anymore. Like it just doesn't. I don't know. I took
What
a
is it?
doom scrolling where you just get on TikTok or Instagram and you just scroll for hours.
Oh my god!
I got sucked into that for a little while, and
Is that an
especially
actual? Is that the actual word?
yeah,
Oh my god, that's so cool.
yeah. So I don't do that anymore. So I'm not like overly obsessed with food this year.
Mm.
So I'm feeling as though like I'm in a much better mental headspace to get it done and then come through a rebound. I say a rebound. It'll be
Same thing.
moving. It'll be putting back on enough body fat to level out hormones, and
Mm.
then it'll be moving into like fertility drugs heading into
Yeah.
next year. So it'll be a bit different.
Yeah. I'm like, so when it comes to like, I don't know how to say this. I've never once did like a reverse
Hmm.
out of a show or like a whatever out of a show because I do I do post show a little differently.
Hmm. Yeah, I know this is one of the things that you and I have had differing things on.
Yeah, yeah.
We've talked
I
about
just eat whatever the fuck I want for like the next 7 days. Like I don't even care. I don't even like think much about it. I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna just eat whatever I can for the next 7 days. And then once I'm sick and tired of it, I just fucking go back to just eating regularly.
How much does your weight jump during that time?
Like 5 or 10 pounds.
Fuck off.
Well, that's because I'm drinking a lot of water. It's just like I'm drinking a lot of water. I'm still moving around and just doing my steps. I'm probably training less. So I'm not training more. So like when
Yeah.
show's over, I'm just like down to like 3 to 4 days. So like that extra food and recovery plus moving around with steps is not gonna like cause a lot of inflammation. But I'm also figuring out a ways for my clients to be successful with their post show. It's getting them mentally ready because what I'm noticing, like if you're ready on time and you're just peeled and you're in a good spot, you can start feeding 2 weeks out.
You can what?
You can start feeding,
Yeah.
loading 2 weeks out, like slowly, progressively, till you get the look that you need.
Yep.
So like if clients are ready and they're having food 2 weeks out, just slowly in going up, like reversing. I think this is where like reversing out of the diet would make sense
Hmm.
because the show is not over, but you're ready and you need to feed up while holding the condition in. So at 2 weeks out, you reverse out of the diet
Yep.
to give you the best look.
Yep.
So what I usually do is just tell them, hey man, the next 2 weeks you're gonna have more food. You're gonna have 2 weeks of eating more food. Once that's over and the show's over, we still stay somewhere around where the 2 weeks of eating more food was, which
Yeah.
would be like their maintenance calories. So like they're still eating a good amount of food, but they've been eating for 2 weeks. That
Hmm.
post show, there shouldn't be a desire to go crazy because the last maybe the last 2 to 3 days of a competition, people are loading up with a fuckload of carbohydrates. So I think if we just mentally think that like we're ready, let's say you are ready a 2 or 1 week out and you're just eating food that entire time just to bring the body
Hmm.
back to life, bring things back to normal, then once the show itself is over, it's super easy to transition over because you just had probably in the course of 2 weeks 5,000 grams of carbohydrates. But the good thing is you're not going to like blow your shape because you know you still got a competition to do.
Hmm.
So you're doing this to kind of build up the shape and get you look fuller and tighter. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how I've just been kind of telling my clients, just like just shift the mindset and think that you want to be ready 2 weeks out. You want to eat into the show. You want to relax. And then once the show's over, we just go to back to maintenance or where you were
Yeah.
eating because you do have that 1 to 2 days where you load up a lot of carbohydrates, go into the show just to fill out glycogen. But then once that's done, that's like a too high day, and then just go back to normal the next day after the show. And it's
Yeah. I 100% agree with that method. It is the most ideal thing that you can do. It's just not always.
it's not always going to work because we
Yeah.
just want to eat more
Yeah.
food,
And for
obviously.
me, it's never worked like to where I'm ready 2 weeks out.
Yeah,
This will be the first year where I think that I'll probably be ready somewhere between 10 and 14 days out.
it's
And
going to be nice. It's going to
yeah,
be nice.
so I'm looking forward to it, right? Um, and that is because I took a longer, I guess, a longer prep, right? Um, so it'll be cool. It'll be interesting to see. I think it's going to bring a much better look. Um, and but yeah, it does make I do think that it makes the reverse easier. I say the reverse, just coming out of that contest easier.
Mhm.
I do remember one year I ate so much food in such a short period of time before the show to fill out that literally post show, I, I I had some candy and some sweets and stuff like that, and then I just was done. Like I was so full that I didn't want to eat anything else. Like
Yeah, so like that's usually where I cut it off.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
because at that point you're just so disgusted with yourself.
yeah,
So you're just like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore.
yeah,
You're just done.
yeah. No, dude. Like last year, I was so ravenous, hungry all the time that it was like I was eating myself to where my stomach physically hurt.
I've been
Um,
there.
and that's where I would stop eating. And then
Yeah.
it would be like miserable. and I would find a spot on my side where I wasn't miserable. Yeah. Anyways, so all right. Well, let's wrap this up. I need to eat. We've been on here
Yeah.
for an hour anyways, so that's another episode of Black and White Bodybuilding. Paul, I'll catch you next week, brother.
All right. Sounds good, man.
Later.
Yep.